So hey guys, how you doing? Hope everything's well. First of all, before I get off on the topic here, I just want to say for the last couple of videos, thanks everybody for watching, liking, subscribing, all that stuff. It's been nuts. It's been far one of my best videos on this platform so far. However, I talk about other things too, like pinball, like we're going to do today. If it's not your thing, completely understand, but maybe stick around. You hear what I have to say, try it out, check a couple things out. I'm not going to get really deep diving into it a whole bunch, I don't think, but we'll see. I do hear a lot of what you guys said about like getting to the point, like diving right into the subject matter, no like tapping around or dancing. It's something I see on YouTube too, and I don't like, especially in this age of like TikTok videos. They're so immediate. I think we just need to get right into it. So with that being said, let's get right into this current subject. Okay, full disclosure, I'm a old gamer. I'm 43 years old. I'll be 44 this summer. And I enjoy my retro games. I enjoy some of my modern games. More retro. I've always been more retro. I live in the past a lot immediately. Same deal with pinball. I grew up with pinball. Pinball was in a lot of dive bars, and where I grew up, nobody cared if you walked into the bar and said, I'm just here to play pinball and drink Mountain Dew, and they're just like, yeah, okay, cool. You know, like the town kind of like back in those days was like, everybody's like watching like everybody's kids and stuff like that. So I've been in pinball for a large part of my life, ever since I was like 5 or 6 years old. I don't know if it was like on purpose or accidentally, but my dad one time was like watching me when I was like a little kid, and he went to the bar and they had a firepower there, and he said, you know, go get me some cigarettes out of the vending machine back in the day where you can do that. Got him some cigarettes, and he handed me a thing of quarters, and I said, what am I supposed to do with this? And he's like, put it in the jukebox, go play the pinball machine. So I was like, looking at the pinball machine, I was like, this is cool, but I can't really quite play it because I'm not tall enough. So the bartender came around and said, oh, I have a stool for that, and put a stool down for me to stand on and start playing pinball. And seeing the lights and the action and everything happening, it just clicked from that day forward, and I was hooked on pinball. Pinball to me has always been stainless steel rails on the side, lockdown bar, stainless steel legs, and sometimes like that kind of like dive bar smell. Like it kind of like brings that back, that memory when I see a machine that looks like that. Unfortunately, what happened is the company WMS that owned Williams and Bally in the 90s had to shut down because they just weren't willing to deal with the fact that they would have to put about $30 million into pinball because it's very expensive to make a pinball machine to get $4 million of profit back, and that just wasn't worth it for them. And I think some of the smartest people in pinball, to be honest with you, is Gary Stern, George Gomez, I think is insanely intelligent, and I think these guys realize that there's a certain like build on materials price point that they have to hit with these machines to make the max amount of profit that they can on them. So in 1999, WMS, the parent company of Williams, Bally Williams, basically said, that's it, we're done with pinball, and got out. There's one person left, and that was Gary Stern, and then he started Stern Pinball off of two other iterations of the company before, which was Sega and Data East. And a lot of what we have today wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Gary, guys. And in a turnaround way, also George Gomez later on. He made that thing survive. He made it survive through the recession. And now they're thriving because he's got the right people there. George Gomez leading the studio part of the company and getting good, like new, fresh talent in there, like Keith Elwin and Jack Danger making these new machines. And so Stern is a very important part of the pinball industry. So I'm telling you this to give you context, but I remember when Stern was Data East Pinball back in high school. You can definitely see that Data East had like a lower BOM build on materials on their things. So like their aprons were plastic where Williams was like metal. Williams had a much better like quality. It seemed like they had a much bigger like BOM overall on their machines. And I really enjoyed that about those machines. And those are the machines I grew up on. So those were pinball in my mind. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with what Data East, Sega, and now Stern's doing. Stern's got their premium machines. They're much more in line with what Bally Williams was back in the day when it comes to like the metal aprons and stuff like that. They've made a lot of right moves in having like the tiered stuff like the pros, the premiums, and all that. The pros are very important for operators to put out there and actually make some money off of these things. So, and they have a special place in my heart, but it's just, I'm a Bally Williams guy, and I think it's something I learned about myself. So I've had a few machines in my later years here, like Jurassic Park Home, Deadpool, Mandalorian, and now Ninja Turtles. And one pickup I got last summer was Cactus Canyon Remake, and that's made by a company called Chicago Gaming Company. And I've done a lot of my research on Chicago Gaming and found out that they're a subsidiary of Churchill Cabinet Company, I think is what it is, CCC. And it turns out Churchill Cabinet Company made pinball cabinets and arcade cabinets going back to like 1977, and a lot of them for Bally Williams. And going into the 90s, they even made playfields. As I've gotten Stearns over the last few years, they've gone up in price. They've gone 5,800, they've gone, I think, like 62, 67. Now they're at like 69, basically $7,000, right? And pinball prices keep going up and up. And on the premiums, they'd be like, I think they were like around seven something, like 7.5. And now they've gone up to almost like 10K. But the cost to make these machines, because of things like inflation and stuff, has had to go up over a period of time and cause like new products, new ideas, new ways or creative ways to build things. Like instead of like having, like, for instance, back glass, you have translate posters on a piece of glass. It's way cheaper than actually making a piece of glass with art printed or silk screened on it. But to me, growing up in the 80s, something has been kind of lost in that. And I felt like it was gone almost. And then I got Cactus Canyon. And Cactus Canyon, guys, made by Chicago Gaming, is no joke. It's really all, it's just right there with Williams. Like, the quality's really good. I love that they have the stainless steel legs and stuff on there. It really just makes me feel like, you know, a kid again playing a game in the 90s. And the thing that's amazing to me is I have a, what they call an SE special edition Cactus Canyon. It's $8,000 for that. And then you look at a Stern Premium 9000, and I got to ask, like, when you compare it to like the mechs and stuff that you're getting into it and the build quality and stuff, there's a huge, huge difference between the two. You're getting way more for your money on a Chicago Gaming machine than you are on a Stern. And this is just an opinion, and this is a talking piece. I want to like get your guys' feedback on like current pinball prices. Stern's very important, and it has been very important to Chicago Gaming's success, because like their first couple of runs, I think, of Medieval Madness and maybe a few other games, and maybe they still do, have made some like of the mechs and toys and some of the mechanisms that have gone into the Chicago Gaming machines. And I became so wrapped up in this hobby of pinball and getting machines that a lot of people were like, oh, are you getting a new Godzilla? Godzilla's like the best thing. Everybody should have Godzilla and all this. And really, peer pressure is still a thing when you get older. And I had to take some time and kind of like listen to myself and what I want out of all this and everything. And so I'm trying to condense it down for right now to 2 machines, because my eventual goal is to save up for like a house or a condo or something like that. You look at like the James Bond Limited 500 60th anniversary single level machine. I want a single level machine. I want a machine that has more modern rule sets, but is like, you know, that 80s kind of feel. And when I looked at Bond and they want 20K for that, and I get it, it's supposed to be a limited thing, and I'm not here saying that like I have any kind of hatred towards Stern doing that. It's their business. They can do whatever they want. It's just, I don't think I want to pay that for that. But then Pulp Fiction came out. And Pulp Fiction, well, certainly not one of my favorite movies. Like the look of it, the colors of it, the fact that it's got alphanumeric displays like the old 80s machines. It's going to have like newer stuff, like new roll sets, newer sound and call outs on it. And it's all going to be, it's just like all the things that went into it. It's got like a subway. It's got a ball staging area for like the ball lock and all that. It's actually got 2 physical ball locks in it. And we compare Bond 60th to this thing that has like actuating moving like topper with like RGB lights and all that, and then you got like a logo with RGB lights and no like art blades, and they're putting mirrored blades in this thing and everything, and this is like half the cost at like 9,500. You got to ask yourself, it's like like why is one 20K and the other, you know, I get that there's going to be more Pulp Fiction LEs at 1,000 as opposed to 500, but still, like, why is, and when you know what the build quality and stuff is going to be, why is it that much? This is the first time ever that I've jumped on board for not only just a limited edition, but I've jumped on board for a game before ever flipping it. And I'm very much a kid that was raised on boomers, and boomers believed in things like, hey, when you pay for something, you know, you give a lot of your hard-earned cash towards something, and it should be of very good quality. And I just feel like some of the quality is missing on some of these new machines. But with Chicago Gaming, I feel like it's really damn good. Like you're really getting what you're paying for and then some. It's not to say I don't have criticisms of Chicago Gaming. I think Chicago Gaming does have some QA problems. When I have a problem that I need to go like, hey, this switch isn't firing right or something, and it's still under warranty, it might take them like sometimes like 2 to 3 weeks to get back to me, and that's a bit annoying. I'd say both companies on a level of the corporate side talking to the customer, it has their issues, but I think Chicago Gaming a little bit more, especially when it's like being transparent about why it takes so long for machines to be delivered. So I think a lot of people look at Chicago Gaming and they look at Stern as like being in the same, like, at the same level or same kind of parity or whatever like that. And they're not. They're very, very different companies. When you look at Stern's main goal is to make pinball machines and only pinball machines. And they're about a couple hundred employees at least at now. And I know they're growing like way past that because they're going to like a new, bigger building. Or I think they're actually like getting 2 buildings or something like that. Churchill Cabinet Company makes cabinets and they make furniture to make other things. So there's other things that need to go on the line besides pinball machines. And I think that's part of it. But also their employee count, from what I could tell, was like around 50 from doing as much research as I could. So they're a much smaller company. But the thing I appreciate is that they are taking their time and these things seem to be built to a standard. When it comes to me, there's like a certain look, a certain feel to something. Like you can tell like the play fields on the Sterns are all the same because they're all being printed off almost like, I don't know if it's like almost like an inkjet printer, but you can tell it's like a printing head that goes back and forth across the playfield and they clear coat that. Where on Chicago Gaming, like each playfield might just be slightly different because they actually still silk screen the art onto the playfield. And so getting a Chicago Gaming machine, yeah, it takes longer. There's less employees involved, but they seem to be taking their time and paying attention to detail. And when it gets to you, it's just this glorious nostalgia factor that kicks in because it's just like what you remembered, and that's fantastic to me. Not let alone that, but you're paying sometimes the same price or lower for a machine that to me feels like a Cadillac compared to a Honda Civic. Having said that, I am selling both my Stern machines and I will have Chicago Gaming in here, and to let you guys know, if you want to call me a fanboy, that's fine, but I do have a preference. I do like Chicago Gaming machines because I think you just can't beat it for what you're getting. And I think, really honestly, they have problems, but their problems are mostly that they're kind of understaffed. How do you guys feel about current pinball prices? What do you think about what you're getting for the cost of certain machines out there and stuff like that, and the quality of what you're getting? Feel welcome to beat me up in the comments. I welcome it. I invited it. So, with my opinions on things. And you guys have a good one. You know all the things, like, subscribe, all that stuff. And I will see some of you at Texas Pinball Festival. I'm excited, and I can't wait to cover that for you guys. And hopefully I'll be able to cover Pulp Fiction there too. So, yeah, but all the new machines and stuff, definitely putting videos out on all that stuff. So you guys have a good one. Later.